Have you ever felt like everyone around you doubted your potential? Like you're walking a path that nobody understands? Imagine being a tiny ant, a creature so small, yet carrying a dream so big that even her own colony can't comprehend it. In a busy, bustling colony where every ant knows its place, there's one little ant with a vision. She isn't content with the ordinary tasks of gathering food or following the crowd. No, she has something different in mind, a dream of starting her very own shop. Instead of spending her days hauling food back and forth, she's out exploring the world, collecting little treasures along the way. Seeds, delicate flower petals, smooth pebbles, each item a piece of her unique vision. But not everyone sees her dream the way she does. The other ants laugh, scoffing at her idea. They tell her she's foolish, that she's wasting her time, and that if she knew what was good for her, she'd just fall in line like everyone else. So, what do you do when no one believes in you? When the path you want to walk seems so far from what everyone expects? This is the story of that little ant, her journey to make her dreams a reality, despite all odds. As the days passed, the little ant felt the weight of countless whispers and stifled laughter each time she returned to her shop. Her fellow ants simply couldn't grasp why she was so determined to be different, why she clung to a dream they saw as useless. They'd say things like, "Look at her, wasting her time with those silly trinkets while the rest of us work for the colony." They sneered at her collection of seeds, delicate petals, and smooth stones, mocking it as nothing more than useless junk. Each word stung, making her feel more and more like an outsider, a stranger in her own community. But it wasn't just the ridicule that hurt. It was the silence, the empty space around her stall that weighed heavily on her heart. Each morning, she carefully arranged her treasures, hoping that today, maybe someone would see what she saw in them. But no one came. No curious glances, no approving nods. Her display, filled with pieces she had gathered with love and care, went completely unnoticed. She began to question everything, wondering if her dream truly was foolish, just a waste of time and energy. The joy she once felt in exploring and gathering her treasures started to fade, replaced by a deep loneliness that crept in like a shadow. Several times, she tried to explain her dream to others, to make them understand why it mattered to her. But even those who paused out of curiosity seemed only to ask questions meant to mock her. "Why waste time on these things?" they'd scoff, or "Can't you see how silly this all is?" Her words would falter as she faced their skepticism, and with each encounter, her confidence chipped away a little more. She felt smaller each time, her dreams seeming to slip further and further from reach. Many nights, she lay awake, wrestling with the idea of giving up. She knew she could go back to the traditional work everyone expected of her. It would be simpler, no strange glances, no judgmental whispers. She'd fit in again, no longer the subject of scorn or laughter. And yet, every time she came close to surrendering, a small spark flared within her, faint but stubborn. It was a whisper of the excitement she'd felt at the beginning, a reminder of how her heart had leapt when she first imagined her little shop. Though her dream seemed distant and the path felt lonely, she couldn't bring herself to let go. One day, as the little ant wandered through the meadow, searching for unique items to add to her shop, her gaze fell upon a bee, diligently gathering pollen from the nearby flowers. She watched in quiet admiration as the bee flew gracefully from bloom to bloom, moving with purpose and ease. He seemed tireless, unwavering, his wings never faltering as he worked. For a while, she simply observed, captivated by his determination. Eventually, she gathered the courage to approach him, hoping he might have some wisdom to share. "Hello, Mr. Bee," she called softly, unsure of how he'd respond. When he turned to look at her, she hesitated, but then spoke up. "Don't you ever get tired of doing the same thing, every day? Flying from flower to flower, collecting pollen? It must be exhausting. Don't you ever feel discouraged?" The bee paused, hovering gently above a bright flower, before landing to face her. He looked at her with a kind, knowing expression. "Oh, little ant," he replied with a gentle smile. "There are many days when my work isn't easy. Sometimes I fly far from home, only to find myself caught in storms that knock me off course. I've been lost more times than I can count, and there are days when I come back to the hive with nothing to show for my efforts." The little ant listened intently, surprised by the bee's honesty. She had always seen him as confident and unwavering, but here he was, sharing his struggles openly. "But doesn't that make you want to give up?" she asked, her voice trembling slightly as she recognized her own doubts mirrored in his words. The bee looked at her with warmth and understanding. "I used to feel that way," he admitted, nodding thoughtfully. "But I realized that every time I faced a storm, every time I came back empty-handed, I grew a little stronger and a little wiser. I learned to read the winds, to recognize which flowers offered the best pollen, to know when it was safe to fly and when it was better to wait. Each setback, each challenge taught me something, helped me understand my world a bit more." The little ant lowered her gaze, letting his words sink in. She thought about all the times she had carefully arranged her treasures, only for them to be ignored. Each failure had felt like a sting, a reminder that she wasn't succeeding. And yet, as she listened to the bee, she began to wonder if each of those moments had, in fact, been teaching her something valuable. The bee's gentle eyes held hers as he offered his final words of wisdom. "You see, little ant, each setback is just another step on the ladder to success. If you can look at failure as a teacher instead of an enemy, you'll find that every challenge brings you closer to reaching your goal." The ant nodded slowly, a new sense of clarity dawning within her. The bee's words were simple, but they carried a profound truth she had never considered. For the first time, she understood that her failures weren't signals to stop. They were steps on a journey, guiding her towards something greater than she had imagined. After her conversation with the bee, the little ant returned to her shop, her mind buzzing with new possibilities. She realized that maybe, just maybe, her approach needed a fresh perspective. Inspired by the bee's words, she decided to pour her creativity into her collection, making each piece more than just an object. She would turn them into small works of art, each crafted with love and imagination. A necklace strung with tiny seeds, a bracelet woven from delicate flower petals, a charm polished from smooth pebbles. Each item would be a reflection of her journey, her curiosity, and her newfound purpose. But transforming her vision into reality proved to be more difficult than she had anticipated. She spent hours carefully stringing seeds into a necklace, only for the thread to snap as she tied the final knot. Each time she tried weaving petals into a bracelet, they'd crumble under the slightest pressure. The pebbles, too, were tricky. They slipped out of place, refusing to hold in her carefully designed patterns. Frustration built with each setback, as it seemed that every attempt ended in failure. She quickly realized she would need more than just patience. She would have to develop new skills, experiment with techniques, and find materials sturdy enough to hold her creations together. With every failure, however, she learned something new. She discovered how to secure seeds more tightly, testing different types of threads until she found one that wouldn't break. She figured out how to handle petals gently, weaving them with minimal pressure to keep them intact. The stones, she learned, required a specific kind of binding to stay in place. Little by little, her shop transformed, from a simple stall into a bustling workshop, a space where she experimented, innovated, and reworked her ideas. Her determination grew with every small victory, and so did her confidence. As her skills improved, she rearranged her display over and over, moving her creations around, trying out different layouts to see what might catch the eye of passers-by. She wanted her little shop to feel inviting, to spark curiosity, and to reflect the care she put into each piece. Gradually, the process became less about the end result and more about the journey itself. With every tiny improvement, every small success, she found herself savoring the work. She realized her dream wasn't solely about creating beautiful objects to sell. It was about the joy of crafting, of learning, of feeling herself grow with each new day. Though her shop wasn't bustling yet, she looked forward to each morning with a renewed sense of purpose. Every day was a new chance to get a little better, to learn a little more, and to see her work evolve piece by piece. In those moments, she discovered a deep, quiet satisfaction that wasn't tied to success or recognition, but to the fulfillment of following a path that felt right for her. One day, after countless weeks of tireless effort, something extraordinary happened. A curious ant, drawn by the glimmer of delicate necklaces and tiny trinkets on display, strolled by her shop. His eyes widened as he took in the array of carefully crafted pieces, each one a unique combination of seeds, petals, and polished pebbles. After a moment's pause, he reached out, gently lifting one of the seed necklaces, inspecting it with admiration. He turned to the little ant and with a warm smile, decided to buy it. For the little ant, this was more than a simple sale. It was the validation she had longed for, the sign that her work truly had meaning beyond her own heart. She watched the ant walk away, proudly wearing her creation, and a wave of joy surged within her. A feeling so strong it seemed to light up her entire shop. With a renewed sense of purpose, she poured even more energy into her creations. Her hands moved quickly, yet carefully as she crafted new designs, experimenting with different combinations of colors and textures. Each new piece reflected her growing skill and confidence, and the joy she felt radiated from every item she crafted. Word of her unique shop began to spread through the colony. Ants who had once passed by with indifferent glances now stopped to admire her creations, drawn by stories they'd heard of her delicate, intricate work. Slowly but surely, her shop transformed. It was no longer just a stall of trinkets. It became a small hub of creativity. Ants gathered there, some out of curiosity, others genuinely inspired by what she had built. They came to marvel at her work, to appreciate the beauty she had created, and some even sought her advice on their own dreams. Her shop became a place of connection, a space where her dedication and resilience shone through every piece on display. With each interaction, her confidence blossomed, a transformation that she felt deeply. She no longer carried the weight of others' judgments or skepticism on her shoulders. Instead, she felt a new sense of fulfillment, a feeling that went beyond the act of selling her creations. She realized that her shop, which had once been merely a dream, had grown into a reflection of her journey, her resilience, her growth, and the quiet joy she had found in every step along the way. One sunny afternoon, as she was arranging her display with care, she noticed a familiar figure approaching. It was the bee, his wings humming gently as he took in the bustling scene around her shop. His eyes widened as he looked at her creations, each one a testament to the hard work and creativity she had poured into them. "You've really created something special here," he said, a hint of pride in his voice. The little ant's face lit up, grateful to see him again. She thanked him warmly, explaining how his words had changed her perspective, helping her see each setback as a stepping stone rather than a failure. "I used to think success was only about reaching a goal," she admitted, her voice filled with quiet conviction. "But now, I see it's also about finding joy in the work itself, about learning and growing with each challenge." The bee nodded, his gentle smile reflecting her own newfound confidence. In that moment, she realized that her journey had become much more than a dream fulfilled. It was a testament to her courage, her perseverance, and the quiet but powerful act of believing in herself, even when no one else did. She understood that success wasn't just about achieving something tangible. It was about the journey, about each step that brought her closer to who she was meant to become. Looking back on her journey, the little ant saw her path with a clarity that only time and experience could provide. Every struggle, every doubt, every moment of loneliness. She realized now that these weren't signs she was on the wrong path. They were vital parts of her story. Each failure had taught her something essential, shaping her with every challenge into the ant she had become. Success, she understood, wasn't about a single achievement or reaching a specific milestone. It was about the courage to keep going, to hold on to her vision, even when others doubted her, and even when she doubted herself. Her setbacks hadn't been obstacles. They had been teachers, each one offering a lesson in patience, resilience, or creativity. Each mistake she'd made had been a stepping stone, guiding her toward her true self, strengthening her resolve. Through these experiences, she had come to understand that failure isn't the opposite of success. It's an inseparable part of it. Real success, she learned, is found in the journey itself, in the small victories that often go unnoticed, in the lessons learned through persistence, and in the quiet resilience built along the way. As she reflected, she saw that her purpose wasn't solely in the finished pieces she sold. It was in the act of creating, in the joy of discovery, and in the dedication she had shown to a dream that was truly her own. Her shop was more than a place for trinkets. It was a living testament to her journey, her growth, and the courage it had taken to follow her heart. So, if this story resonates with you, remember, every dream requires perseverance, and every failure holds a lesson that shapes us. If a small ant can push through her struggles to find her purpose, so can you. Whatever path you're on, embrace each step, find joy in the journey, and trust that every challenge is bringing you closer to becoming the person you're meant to be. If this story resonated with you, give it a like and consider subscribing for more inspiring tales. Remember, failures are just milestones on the path to success. Embrace your journey, just like the little ant did. And remember, you're stronger than you think.